On the 6th of September 2022, YoungBoy drops his latest project, Realer 2. The project included typical YoungBoy murder talk, for example on the track Boot Up, where he appeared to sneak diss Lil Durk, mocking him for beefing him earlier on Instagram and Twitter, and suggesting that when he gets off house arrest, he's going to shoot his crew. Elsewhere, on the song Survive, YoungBoy acknowledges the Chicago gangsters who were after him, referencing the killing of King Von, saying that boy died playing with Quando. But the real showstopper on this project was of course the song Fresh Prince of Utah. This is YoungBoy's reinterpretation of the theme song from Will Smith's sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, with YoungBoy switching up his lyrics, painting himself as the Fresh Prince of Utah, where he was sent to live after getting in trouble in LA and Baton Rouge. The song was a booming, high-energy anthem laced with hard lyrics and quotables. YoungBoy would claim in thugged-out lyrics to be ready to put people in the trunk for dissing his deceased manager Big Dump. But it was the song's viral central catchphrase, "It's a parade inside my city, yeah," that had the song going crazy. This particular song became a favourite of Ja Morant, a player on the Memphis Grizzlies basketball team playing in the NBA. That's the National Basketball Association, not Never Broke Again. But hell, you would struggle to tell the difference, as Ja Morant would seemingly adopt this lyric as his personal catchphrase in countless media appearances.
It's a parade inside my city, yeah! It's a parade inside my city, yeah! Floor. It's a parade inside my city, yeah! Parade inside my city, yeah! Parade inside my city, yeah! It's a parade inside my city, yeah! Good to hear that. It's a parade inside my city, yeah! It's a parade inside my city, yeah! Coach told you, it's a parade inside my city, yeah!
So he jumps in the middle of it and he quotes a rap lyric. It's a parade inside my city, yeah!
It's a parade inside my city, yeah!
YoungBoy would even himself eventually be seen on social media encouraging Ja and his team to win games using his catchphrase. In fact, throughout 2022, Ja Morant would be seen rapping YoungBoy songs word for word, and rumours would circulate that the Memphis Grizzlies would practice to nothing but YoungBoy songs.
Coming here made me realize why he's number one consistently, because all they do is listen to YoungBoy all day, from morning to night, from shoot around to the game. It's NBA YoungBoy.
It's been claimed that the Grizzlies would spend 90 minutes listening to as many as 50 YoungBoy songs to get hyped up during pre-game warm-ups, with all the players seemingly banging 4K Trey both on and off the court, with Ja Morant and Kenny Lofton named as the biggest YoungBoy fans on the team.
He said they listen to it all day from morning to night to shoot around to the game. It's NBA YoungBoy.
Yeah.
But I've heard that you're like Mr. YoungBoy. Like you have all the lyrics to every song.
Me?
Yeah. It's not true?
I mean, it's a couple that I know all the lyrics for, but
Who's started it here then?
probably, I think it's been a thing. Job, he listens to YoungBoy a lot, but Kenny Lofton, that's really Mr. YoungBoy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ja would claim in interviews that YoungBoy is the reason that they have won so many games. And as crazy as that sounds, when the Grizzlies had a great regular season, leaving them ranked number 2 in the Western Conference with 56 wins, people were saying that YoungBoy was actually the man responsible, with deeper analysis suggesting that all of these players had actually connected and built chemistry through their shared love of YoungBoy's music, and that this shared interest actually made them a more cohesive and effective team. However, if YoungBoy gets responsibility for the positive side, he would also end up catching heat for the negative influence too, as in March 2023, Ja Morant would hit Colorado strip club Shotgun Willie's, yet another venue that seemed to be blasting nothing but YoungBoy anthems, and it seemed that Ja got a little too carried away and forgot which NBA he was a part of, deciding to let everyone know that he had that iron on his belt, flashing a pistol to his followers whilst in the club and broadcasting his fun to the world on Instagram Live. From there, 4K Ja would go on to rap a number of the YoungBoy's more bloodthirsty lyrics about having his ops killed, all while throwing gun fingers and gang signs. According to dancers who were there that night, the presence of the gun in the club terrified some of the girls there. And from here, we would see things go from bad to worse, as the media would begin reporting on Ja's antics, painting the parade inside his city as a $50,000 strip club bender, with leaked images of him getting a lap dance, piercing his family-friendly ball player image. Now, since Ja Morant is in the National Basketball Association, a corporate organization that generates literally tens of billions of dollars, this sort of behavior would be taken very seriously indeed. Look, the NBA just can't have their star talent running around, toting guns, throwing gang signs, and saying that they're going to have people people knocked off. I mean, this is the NBA, not Atlantic Records, but anyway. The situation would begin to look much worse for Ja once the timeline of events emerged. Apparently, after beating the Rockets in Houston, the Memphis Grizzlies flew on a team plane to Denver, apparently landing in the city after midnight and heading straight to the strip club. This sparked speculation that Ja might have even used the team plane to traffic a firearm across state lines. Now, in Ja's defense, the clip of him holding the gun in the club was recorded on a return visit 2 days later after playing a game against the Denver Nuggets. But this would lead to an investigation by local police, as well as an internal investigation by the NBA, with the Grizzlies announcing hours after the news broke that Ja would be missing 2 games, with 4 more suspended games later being added. And an NBA investigation was launched to determine whether or not Ja had brought the firearm onto team premises or the team plane. But the trouble was far from over for Ja. In the midst of all of this, further reports would emerge seeming to allege that Ja had been involved in 2 violent incidents the last summer, with a 17-year-old accusing Ja and a friend of beating him and getting a gun out during a pickup game where Ja claimed that the kid actually threw a ball at his head. Ja was also accused of threatening security at a Memphis mall, and on the court, Ja was facing allegations by the Indiana Pacers that Ja and his crew aggressively confronted members of the team's traveling party after an on-court altercation, with it later being claimed that Ja and his friend had hopped in an SUV and spun the Pacers team bust, allegedly even aiming a red laser beam at them from their SUV, which the team believed could have been the red beam from a gun, with this incident actually resulting in Ja's best friend being banned from the Grizzlies stadium. I mean, that's crazy. After the incident, Ja would get into damage control, releasing an apologetic statement, vowing to get help and to find better ways of dealing with stress, later appearing in an interview claiming that the gun wasn't his, but also taking responsibility for making a mistake and painting himself in a negative light.
You at the spot, Shotgun Willie's. I've been there. You were holding a gun. And we both know how dangerous that can be. Whose gun were you holding?
Well, the gun wasn't mine. It's not who I am. I don't condone any type of violence, but I take full responsibility for my actions. Made a bad mistake, and I can see the image that I painted over myself with my recent mistakes. But in the future, I'm gonna show everybody who Ja really is, what I'm about, and change this narrative.
In the end, the Colorado police would decline charging Ja, and he would make an explosive post-suspension return, telling the world he is completely sorry and supporting his team from the bench initially, and then returning in style, scoring 17 points and 5 assists after hopping off the bench and playing for 24 minutes while wearing a bizarre mask with rainbow-dipped dreads. However, in the end, Ja Morant's recovery would take a tragic turn, as in May 2023, after YoungBoy released a new album, seemingly overcome by the realness of the latest murder anthem from the gravedigger Lil Top himself, Ja would be seen on Instagram bumping YoungBoy when suddenly, as if in some kind of 4K Trey trance, he reaches for another gun and flashes it to the camera. This repeat incident would be followed by a cookie-cutter apology statement, and Ja's immediate suspension from all team activities, followed by endless ridicule from social media pundits calling Ja NBA dumb boy, as well as pondering how Ja Morant could possibly be so stupid to throw his career away so recklessly. However, at a certain point, some people began pointing the finger at YoungBoy, suggesting that in fact, his music had been a bad influence on Ja. The coverage of YoungBoy's music highlighted a real concern about the impact and influence of violent gangster rap, and it made you wonder, if this music was leading a millionaire NBA player astray, then what impact could YoungBoy's music be having on impressionable teenagers with very little? We're talking about the vulnerable kids who might still be growing up in the circumstances that YoungBoy was in when he was a teenager raising hell. Over time, it seemed that YoungBoy himself actually begun to consider these things, and eventually he would make a major life decision and begin a journey to try and change his ways, and vowing to put a stop to the violence. On December 3rd, 2022, YoungBoy released the track This Not a Song, This For My Supporters. The song came with a cover art depicting YoungBoy standing next to graffiti that said "Stop the Violence," and it came with lyrics where YoungBoy expressed regret at the violent content of his music, rapping that he had been telling his young shooters not to kill, in spite of the fact that people in Atlanta want him dead after the killing of King Von. But YoungBoy would go on to urge those who want to see him dead not to continue the cycle, saying that he is now telling people to stop the violence and that he wants to see his enemies eat rather than beefing with him. In these lyrics, he says 12 bodies and 1 child dead, as well as another saying that he has counted 12 and that his ops aren't better than him. Perhaps it was another reference to the idea that he was competing in bodies with King Von, but YoungBoy would go on to seemingly suggest that his team of killers were actually disappointed because he wasn't planning to put more money on people's heads, and he would question why would his people let their broke ops pull them into a beef that could end with them dying, ultimately saying they're on their own. YoungBoy would rap on the song that he's seen plenty of killings and almost lost his soul to drugs. And at the end of the track, YoungBoy dropped some deep street knowledge, telling people not to listen to other people's definitions of a real gangster, and questioning if it's really gangster to flunk out and lose your life. He would claim that his ops don't know what it means to fight until the other person has no fight in them, and ending the song with the thought-provoking statement, "You are the person you're fighting." This is a line that I think is particularly deep, because I've said before, it's crazy just how much YoungBoy and his enemies like King Von or Lil Durk had in common, and it's tragic to see these young black men from difficult upbringings who became so-called gangsters and eventually music stars having so much in common yet hating each other enough to want to see each other dead. And the statement, "You are the person you're fighting," cuts surprisingly deep. YoungBoy actually goes on to accuse his critics of never having had to shoot a gun themselves, and despite the stop the violence message, YoungBoy vowed to kill all the demons who come to do him harm. In this extended confession of a song, we got an extended look at YoungBoy's remorseful side, as he painted a portrait of himself as a hurt young man who was tired of the endless war. But rapping to stop the violence in songs is one thing, but what YoungBoy did next would have been unthinkable just a few short years before. Despite the great deal of bloodshed on both sides of the Baton Rouge gang wars, in a 2021 interview with DJ Vlad, his biggest rival from Baton Rouge, Fredo Bang, would actually claim that he didn't want to see YoungBoy in jail and that he has no problems with him, even going as far as to saying if YoungBoy called him, he would pick up the phone.
We really ain't never had no problems. Like, if there is tension anywhere, I don't know where it came from. I mean, if he want to reach out right now, you know what I'm saying, I'll pick up the phone. You feel me?
Really?
Yeah, I would. I'll pick up the phone.
The following year, Fredo Bang would reiterate his feelings to academics, claiming that he doesn't even have a problem with YoungBoy. They just don't mess with each other and that he's done dissing him.
I personally don't got a problem with him. It's more of, I don't have a problem with him. We just each other.
Okay. Well, y'all don't be dissing each other.
Nah.
Clearly, the two artists were maturing and moving forward from their past tension. And to further show his commitment to stopping the violence, YoungBoy's NBA camp would shock the rap world on the 22nd of December 2022, when it was announced that YoungBoy and Fredo had actually had a private phone call and agreed to put their differences aside, going on to announce a joint toy drive Christmas giveaway for the struggling families in their hometown of Baton Rouge, taking place on Christmas Eve, with Fredo Bang confirming in a Vlad TV interview that they had indeed spoke on the phone. On this call, they apparently decided they would move on from their conflict and try and do something positive in the community.
Okay, so you guys had the conversation, and the conversation went well.
Yeah. It was more so of us, how can we show that it's never been a problem from the start? So like, let's do a talk, let's do something for the kids.
Given the bloody history between these two and their crews, the idea that they would both be in the same place at the same time was near unthinkable. But the fact that they were willing to let the past be and try to do something positive to squash the beef showed an impressive level of maturity and level-headedness. That's something I rarely see in this kind of story. The toy drive itself would be organised, and Fredo Bang put up an IG story where he spoke on the proposed event, calling on other Baton Rouge rappers and labels to pull up and show love as well, urging them don't be too gangster for the kids.
Hey, I know it's hard times out here, so you know we trying to help y'all out, make sure y'all kids have something for Christmas. We also missing a lot of rappers in the city and rap labels. Trillion T, Mouse on the Track, Webby, Boosie, Level. We need all y'all rappers pull up and pass one toy out, you heard me? Don't be too gangster for the kids, you feel me? Pull up, pass the toy, give a smile, go about your day. I just felt like I should say this one more time, you feel me? Tag these rappers, especially BR, and my guys here. Tell them pull up, come pass out a toy. Do not be too gangster and too prideful that you can't come pass out one toy for a child, you heard? Pull up. Hatch, pull up.
Although YoungBoy was unable to attend the actual event due to being on house arrest, the toy run was a success, and the internet was soon flooded with footage and photos from the event, showing people you would have never dreamed of seeing together a couple of months beforehand. One of these was NBA pioneer OG33 and Fredo Bang being pictured in the same photo. And here, OG3 is seen talking to Fredo Bang and TBG member Hotboy Dew, alongside another NBA veteran, Herm the Black Sheep, who can be seen in the background. even YoungBoy's mother Sharonda was seen at the event moving safely amongst the crowd. The fact that this event went down successfully was seemingly a huge victory for the Baton Rouge rap scene and community, and it seemed that YoungBoy was planning to move forward with a much more positive approach to life. He was actually given a new life in some ways. He had beaten the first of 2 gun charges that were looming over his head, and he'd escaped his long-running record deal with Atlantic and signed a new deal on much more favorable terms with Motown. On the 6th of January 2023, YoungBoy releases his first studio album on Motown Records, I Rest My Case. That landed at number 9 on Billboard, and the day after his album dropped, YoungBoy would announce that he had married his girlfriend Jaslyn and was trying to build a more stable family life. The following month, on February the 1st, 2023, YoungBoy covered Billboard's Power 100 issue. Billboard also released a moving interview with YoungBoy where he opened up about the feelings behind his music. He expressed regret at promoting violence in his music, and he pondered how much violence his music may well have caused, vowing to clean up his act going forward. In this interview, YoungBoy would also explain that he is simply terrified of people and the problems that people have brought into his life. YoungBoy would be visibly shaken in this interview, and the reporter would also write about how YoungBoy began shaking uncontrollably when discussing the beatings he received in group home. He would also discuss inviting Mormon missionaries into his home to discuss the personal struggles that he had been going through, and expressing his intention to be baptized into the Church of Latter-day Saints, after finding so much comfort in speaking to the missionaries who visited him. It seemed like YoungBoy had truly gone on a journey of transformation, realizing the size of the influence that his music had on other people, and vowing to conduct himself in a more responsible manner going forward. He had seemingly squashed the longest running beef of his career, holding a call with Fredo Bang and overseeing the community toy drive that brought peace to these 2 warring factions. And I wish I could say that that's where this story ended, but unfortunately, YoungBoy would still be subjected to endless prods from his new enemies from Chicago. And despite all of his talk of stopping the violence, when YoungBoy found himself being provoked and antagonized by Lil Durk in front of the entire rap industry, he simply couldn't help himself, reigniting his war of words with Chicago's biggest rapper, which ultimately led to one of the biggest sales battles in modern rap history. If you found that clip interesting, please hit the like and subscribe button, and if you want to watch the full-length version of this video, check out the documentary on my main channel, Trap Law Ross, and if you want the uncut version of that documentary with 30 minutes of footage I cannot show you on YouTube, then head on over to patreon.com/traplawross, where you can watch all of my best videos completely uncut for just $2. And if you want to keep in touch and get updates on the next documentaries that I'm going to be dropping, make sure you follow me on Instagram at traplawross. Appreciate it. Peace.